Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies, inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh for the last time this week. Thanks to Empire Properties. And of course, thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. It is bracket season, which means your office is going to be printing out brackets all next week. Make sure you get the handle on that. Who's abusing the privileges? You can find that out with all sorts of print management thanks to our friends at Copiers-Plus. What? The Kyocera will snitch on you. Be careful. Be careful.
I think I've told you this story before, but back at the paper, there used to be a guy who would print out books, pages of the book.
That. Yes,
and we would be like, and finally they had to put you had to give blood and hemoglobin to print something in the office because this bastard was up there printing out 3,000 pages for a book.
Nothing will ever top the part-timer who was no longer a part-timer after he had cleared out the soda machine.
Oh yeah, he said that.
Because the soda machine was a quarter. So dude just he cleared out. Maniscalco was so mad because he's a big Coke Zero guy. Mm-hmm. So he cleared out the sleeve of Coke Zero on quarter sodas. I don't miss working in an office at all. We got a lot to get into here in this first segment.
We do.
We actually do. So we're going to talk to Patrick Stevens from the Washington Post, give us a bracketology update with North Carolina specifically. But speaking of updates, and I feel like I'm falling down on the job, I do not have an NC State coaching search tracker.
Ooh,
that's something we have to destination
flight tracker awareness.
Destination Raleigh.
You a hog call and some hogs running.
Although, before we get to an NC State coaching update, let's add to the list of people who give you credit. Versus me.
Yeah.
Shout out to 680 down in Atlanta.
Keats, after making the Final Four last year, was fired at NC State. Why did we bring it up? Joe Giglio, Joey Giggs, who covered NC State. He was their beat writer for years.
Hold on a second. Joey Giggs? What are you?
I wish I knew this guy.
Are you like an ancillary Sopranos character now?
Hey.
It's like Tony's going,
go Satrielli's.
Hey, go to, what was the name of the meat market that they hung out at all the time?
I just said
is that what it was? Okay, my bad. Again, I'm not that deep into the Sopranos lore other than you go into the Bada Bing, and I'm sure Joey Giggs is there with Ralphie, who was the worst character ever.
Yeah, Ralphie was
deplorable. Awful. So glad when he got whacked.
Spoilers.
It's been too long.
Says that Mike White will be the first target of their search. Mike White's in a great spot right now because Mike White's going to get a...
Hold on. Did you say that?
I did on Sunday.
The first target?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember that.
Race, no matter what.
Oh, God. Mike White didn't even have to win anything in the NCAA tournament to become a commodity. Usually it's the guy, Shaka Smart, and it's those guys from those types of schools. They go to the Sweet 16 and everybody says, I got to get me one of those. The guy who went to USC from down in Florida. This guy has done it. He's never won an NCAA tournament game for the University of Georgia.
He's talking about Andy Enfield, by the way. But anyway.
Whoa.
Woo, coming in hot.
Whoa.
Mike White, what you done, man? What have you done? Anyway, I thought that was amusing.
I think they have a chance. Georgia has a chance to make the NCAA tournament this year, but I think they missed the moral of the story. That might have been a game of telephone that my friends down in Atlanta.
I believe that's what happened.
Mike White is the son of Kevin White.
Yeah.
The Corrigan family, the White family, obviously have a shared connection in history, and there is a friendship there between Mike White and Boo Corrigan. Mm-hmm. Kevin White, former AD at Notre Dame, the godfather of all of the ADs here in the Triangle, Boo, Bubba, Nina King. I think if you were and I were conducting this search,
mm-hmm.
You look at Mike White's resume going back to Louisiana Tech, then he made an odd jump from Florida to Georgia. It was a little bit of one of those, I'm going to stay one step ahead of the jailer jumps.
Yep.
Which is smart because he did have success at Florida.
Well, what do you always say? It's about the next contract, right?
It is. So, but he did have success at Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you or I were doing this search, right, and this is such a big moment for Boo.
You don't want me doing the search.
But I'm just saying, okay, let's take
Rick Pitino. Let's just run it back. Rick Pitino, John Calipari. What's Steve Lavin up to?
The premise would be you would turn to somebody who you trusted.
Mick Cronin, what you doing?
You would turn to somebody that you trusted and you knew and what would be someone that you could work together with to shape the direction of the program and where it needs to go.
I'm glad you brought it up that way, because this is important. And this is another example of why this coaching search is different. I was jokingly referring to the post Herb Sendek. Let's just go swing.
Yeah.
For Rick Barnes, John Calipari. We had him, but the pizza sucked. So therefore we didn't get him. Oh my goodness. Right. What's Phil Ford up to? Shout out to Colton Tudor. So anyway, I think that gets back to a talking point that I will be hammering. ADs want their guys that they know they can work with. Yeah. Kevin Keats was not Boo's guy. It was Debbie's guy. And back to Sunday's point about this is an opportunity for Boo Corrigan to put his signature on something at NC State. You're going to want to work with somebody you know,
trust, and is a good basketball coach.
So it's not about a big name. It's about who do you know and trust to get the program where you need it to be, because everything's different now.
So I know that's a connection, right? Like, and Georgia, this is his third year at Georgia. He's got a contract for, I think, another 4 years. So there's some financial considerations here that are part of this.
Yeah. And
he might also say, hey, I'm glad that you want me and we're great friends, but it might work better that I stay here at a football school where I don't think it's, they care that much about basketball. And I can quite frankly just do my job and not worried about being fired after going to the Final Four.
But then he goes to Dallas where there's more Finns. Wait, sorry, I'm getting my love you mean it, but
so I think that's a logical reading of the room there. Ryan Odom, I know is another one that would make sense. You're talking about a familiar background. His father, Dave Odom, former assistant at Virginia, Gene Corrigan, obviously Boo's dad was the AD at Virginia. There's a little bit of an ACC lifer in there. Both of them are ACC lifers, if you will. Ryan Odom, though, at VCU has put himself in a position, because remember, he was at UMBC when they beat Virginia. Virginia's job is open, as I kind of sort of forgot about yesterday. Like, oh yeah, they need a coach too.
However, it does back up what you referenced, I think, on Sunday about some quiet coaching searches.
Yes.
And Virginia might also find itself in a quiet coaching search.
They are in one of those, but the truth of the matter is, if you're at VCU and you do well, then why wouldn't you be? Remember how upset Virginia was back in the day, and the single greatest thing I ever wrote in my career, when they didn't get the VCU coach at the time.
Yeah. And
instead they went out west and hired this Tony Bennett.
Yeah.
And I told them, no, you did the right thing.
Yeah.
You got the right coach for your school. So I can see this search going for NC State. You have these kind of similar thought processes, similar type of mold of coaches that you can trust and you think you can work with. Ryan Odom, Mike White. Will Wade's kind of on the other side of that. And the fan base is very excited about Will Wade. And I do think Will Wade is a part of this equation. I do. Why wouldn't he be? He's an excellent coach.
He's an excellent coach. And as we talked about yesterday,
at McNeese. Like this isn't 2017 where you're trying to convince somebody who might jump to the next big job. And you're in a better position than that. And that also brings me to my other one. Archie Miller is in the sense that back in 17, he was poised to go from Dayton. He had bigger ideas than NC State, quite frankly. Well, now he's at Rhode Island. So, the times change. He was adamant that he was never going to work for Debbie Yao. That was his choice. That was his prerogative. They went 18-12 this year. They're not an NCAA tournament team, but they were in year 3. He showed tremendous improvement in year 3. I'm just telling you how searches go. Look, you and I both know that the NC State searches sometimes end with a former point guard.
They do.
They sometimes do.
Well, the thing about Archie, though, the only thing that I would caution against with Archie Miller is knowing what we know about Archie and how he's wound tight.
Well, I'll spell it out for you more clearly.
I'm trying to be polite.
No. I'll spell it out for you more clearly because I literally just had this conversation.
Okay.
With a source at NC State.
Okay.
To quote, our fans would always say, Kevin's a really nice guy, but I'm not sure he can really coach. It's like, well, if we hired Archie, it would be the opposite.
Yeah.
Archie's an asshole, but he could really, really coach.
And
so we would find out pretty quickly which one you wanted.
Yeah. And that's why I'm curious if the winning doesn't come with it and you're still, you conduct yourself in a particular way,
Yeah.
a little bit combative, how's that going to go? And also, there are people who are still a little salty about how Archie and the family kind of approached NC State.
Yeah. No,
Okay?
they thought they were too good for NC State.
Right. And then,
Straight
oh,
up.
look at that. Look at you.
Straight up.
Bring you home. Of course, that could be a prodigal son situation, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, that's our.
But you got to think of it logically too. Like I was tweeting through some things today, and some people are like, "Oh, you're just like fanning the flames with Archie." I'm like, I'm not. I'm trying to tell you how these searches go. It's all good and well to have a Will Wade, to have a Mike White, to have
here's
Ryan Odom on your list. But we all know that once those musical chairs start, sometimes you don't have a spot.
Without having seen your tweets, I'm going to tell you right now, what you're dealing with is people who have convinced themselves that Will Wade is the guy.
There is that sentiment right now.
There is that sentiment right now that Will Wade is the guy. It might be, but you know what happens, because you've been around enough coaching searches that I've dealt with it from the, how do you react at stuff, not from the beat perspective of it. And that once people convince themselves this is the guy,
Rick Barnes,
any other conversation, even if it's context setting, is met with no. So that's kind of what's happening. People have convinced themselves it's Will Wade because, like we talked about yesterday, the money people are talking and they're all saying Will Wade. Some people are convinced it's a done deal. So when you get off that message, people are going to absolutely reject it.
I mean, it's definitely not a done deal. I promise you that. But
well, if it was done, I would expect you to break it.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
All of our OG Sports phone calls are brought to you by Nature's Relief. I took half a gummy last night. And buddy, I overslept, but I needed it. Trust me, I needed it. This is from 803.
Hey, y'all. This is Jared, owner of Two Roosters. Look, I know many state fans are mad at us for, air quotes, cursing the basketball team, end quote. But hey, maybe some people see it as they say in the South, a blessing in disguise. But who am I to say? After Saturday, though, I was compelled to write this ditty. All right, you guys ready? We're the Roosters from Raleigh, and we had the best promo. When a job was on the line, we offer that BOGO. We're sorry to the state fan base. We hope Coach Avent has an ace. I know we are a triangle great. Go State!
Let me switch the slide out. I did not realize we were going to get a Two Roosters song.
so good.
How can you not support that? Go to tworoosters.com and find out all their wonderful flavors. It's all fantastic stuff. I believe I'm pulling it up right now because I want to get the exact date right for this because we've been talking about Slavin Sundays and all that fun stuff. And Slavin himself will be at the Two Roosters in Wake Forest on, what do we got here? I believe this is March 29th from 3 to 5. So you can meet Jacob Slavin at the Two Roosters.
That's awesome.
On March 29th, the Slavin Social, Saturday,
now,
March 29th.
will he do a BOGO for that day?
I don't think so.
All right.
Just call it a hunch. Elsewhere in the ACC. Oh, which, by the way, all of our ACC tournament coverage is going to be brought to you by Hometown Realty. We got the new slide from Anna. She was very mad at me. She's like, Washington, D.C. was really easy to do. What exactly are we supposed to do with Charlotte? I'm like, I don't know. NASCAR? So here we are. NASCAR, cans of beer, little trucker hat with the OG logo on it. So big thanks to Hometown Realty. They're going to bring you all of our ACC tournament coverage this week. Go to myhtr.com. So the ACC awards were announced yesterday. And as with all awards, people get very worked up about who was snubbed and who wasn't snubbed, and it should have gone to somebody else. Here is the overall basics. Your ACC Player of the Year, no surprise, Cooper Flagg. Your Rookie of the Year, Cooper Flagg. He didn't get the sweep. He was not the Defensive Player of the Year. Chucky Hepburn ended up being the Defensive Player of the Year, senior out of Louisville. And your Coach of the Year, also a Louisville guy, Pat Kelsey gets the ACC Coach of the Year over Jon Scheyer. If you look at the voting,
yes, please.
Let's look at the voting for Player of the Year. 76 votes for Flagg. Raynaud got 4 and Chucky Hepburn got 1. Your Defensive Player of the Year, and this is where I think they're the answer here for the Defensive Player of the Year. Hepburn got 32 votes. Flagg got 26. However, Malik Brown, who we all understand is a defensive piece that makes Duke's overall team defensive efforts go, and they're not going to go far in the NCAA tournament without Malik Brown, right? Got 3 votes. Sion James got 1 vote. So there was some splitting of the vote because of the way Duke plays. But of course, Duke fans are going to sit here and tell you all of Cooper Flagg's defensive metrics should have been good enough to be Defensive Player of the Year. He's even National Defensive Player of the Year material. They ended up being Chucky Hepburn. Do you know the last player to win ACC Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year?
I'm guessing it wasn't Zion Williamson because of the DeAndre Hunter hive.
The Defensive Player of the Year award only goes back 20 years, by the way. It's a relatively new
20
phenomenon.
years?
Yeah. As far back
So where
as
are we? That's 06?
Yeah, as far back as I can go is 04-05. Sheldon Williams won Defensive Player of the Year in back-to-back years.
Oh, well, I was going to say Jay Williams could have won it, but no, off the top of my head, no, I do not. I could not venture a guess.
It would be Malcolm Brogdon, 15-16.
Virginia. Yeah.
ACC Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year.
I
Other
feel
than
like-
that,
Yeah, I feel like the voting has pretty much gone for that Tony stretch. They didn't have the Player of the Year oftentimes, so they would by default give it to the Virginia guy.
mhm.
Like there's been a couple times where I'm like, no, stop. Like DeAndre Hunter, like stop.
Right.
He's not a better defensive player than Zion Williamson.
Duke fans are.
Go back to that vote though, because I think people are kind of missing the point.
Oh well, hold on. I actually let me see if I can pull back up the. What point are you making? I'll
There's
pull it
just
back
too
up.
many people getting a defensive vote.
Yeah.
Right. Like the Player of the Year, there was 3 people, and then there's probably some ballot fatigue there too. Like if your Cooper Flagg is your Rookie of the Year,
Mhm.
then you're not going to make him Rookie Player and Defensive Player. There were enough people who looked at Chucky Hepburn and said, "Okay, I'm not going to give this a clean sweep to one player."
I mean, that would make
he
sense.
had 3 other teammates get a vote. If all of the people who voted for his other teammates had voted for him,
Mhm.
he would have been the Defensive Player of the Year.
For some reason, the ACC website is not cooperating right now,
Okay.
so I'm not going to pull it back up. But we did get some Duke fans to call in. I thought that was interesting.
Hey, guys and Lauren. This is Robert in Raleigh. Just wanted to say, great episode of the ACC Panic Room this morning. But I hope that maybe I can kind of illuminate from the Duke perspective about why the fans, were kind of upset that Scheyer didn't get the nod. And it just boils down to, like, what they have and what we don't have, right? So, like, Hubert Davis already has won an ACC Coach of the Year. And you think about, like, Duke and Carolina, oh, well, they don't win it because they're these historic programs. But Hubert already has won one, and so people keep looking at Hubert. He has one. Scheyer doesn't have one, and yet you could make the argument that since they took over, Sheyer's just been more consistent. They've been a better team. Obviously, Carolina had the deep run in the Final Four all the way to the championship. I'm not going to take that away from them, but hopefully that kind of explains things from the Duke perspective. Sheyer's had a great first 3 years. He's got, the most wins for the first 3 years in the ACC or something like that. Anyways, love the show. Love y'all. Have a great day. Take care.
Yeah, that's something that Lauren and I talked about on the ACC Panic Room today, which you can get over at ogtrianglemedia.com. The Pat Kelsey, I think Jon Scheyer, it was a 2-man race for ACC Coach of the Year. It's Jon Scheyer at Duke and Pat Kelsey at Louisville. And in this particular case, Pat Kelsey was going to get the benefit of the doubt because he took a program that had atrophied under Kenny Payne and turned that thing around so quickly and so well that we went into Saturday it not being a foregone conclusion that Duke was going to be the top seed in the ACC tournament. So that's how good of a season Louisville had under Pat Kelsey in year one. And the voters are always going to default to that. Always going to default to that. Is it on the level of Josh Pastner winning ACC Coach of the Year? Absolutely not. You can make a legitimate case for Pat Kelsey.
Louisville went 18-2. It's not like they went like 12-8.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't Josh Pastner, I beat NC State on the road, so therefore I should get this, and people believed him. No, Pat Kelsey deserves this award, but so did Jon Scheyer.
Yeah.
Because of the year that they put together. So
that's weird too that they were comparing it to Hubert last year. It's funny.
That is kind of funny.
Hey, Joe, it's Duke fan Jake here with emotional overreactions to the ACC media voting. It happened. Cooper Flagg, the number 2 best rated defender in not the ACC, but the entire sport of college basketball this year, fails to win ACC Defensive Player of the Year, while Chucky Hepburn from Louisville. Ever heard about his defensive play? Well, apparently he's the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. I think it was just a bridge too far to allow Flagg to sweep all of it. To say nothing about the Pat Kelsey situation, I think that is a more reasonable take. I still think Jon Scheyer deserved it. But Cooper Flagg is going to be a generational defensive player, if not possibly one of the all-around great players ever to come out of Duke for sure. Probably our best prospect, our best chance of having a Michael Jordan if all goes well. But we had to give the award to Chucky Hepburn. But I'm happy. Here's the thing. This put some fuel to the fire. I want Louisville in the final, and I want to smack them. I want to send them home. I think they're kind of fake ACC good, to be honest. But we'll see. Anyway, good to stir the pot. The real test comes this weekend, and then beyond. But yeah, good to have Duke be a little bit more motivated by some of this disrespect. Thanks.
There you go. That I liked that call because it actually gets to the real heart of this. And I was joking with somebody who's a Duke guy about this. I'm like, I'm sure Cooper Flagg is really losing sleep over the fact that he was not Defensive Player of the Year. I think they have some bigger. I think they have some bigger fish to fry.
Hey man, you use what you can to motivate your guys. Now, I have a couple issues with that call.
Okay,
it's not a media vote anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coaches vote. The radio votes. The radio person for each team. That's 36 votes right there that are probably going to be in line. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. It's not it's a vote. It's not a media.
Yeah, it's
vote.
not what you think it is.
Okay. This isn't 1987 and the media was over there, railing against your guy because they don't like Mike Krzyzewski. That's not what happened. Number two, you make a great point, as the one I just made, that they probably it was some ballot fatigue here. They wanted to give someone else an award other than Flagg.
Yeah.
But you lose me when you compare Cooper Flagg to Michael Jordan. That's not who Cooper Flagg is. Okay.
But look at the metrics. I went to Ken Palm. Numbers.
Sure.
I know.
Sure.
I know.
Outstanding player. National Player of the Year.
Hey, look, all I know is that I got to be careful what I say about Cooper Flagg because I don't need Kelly Flagg, Cooper's mom, all up on my social media, apparently.
Well, as long as we don't stand behind her at a game and curse at her, I think we're fine.
That's a good point. This is something we were so locked into Kevin Keats emergency podcast mode that I did not see this until late yesterday from Field of 68. She had posted this on Facebook, and Field of 68 screen grabbed it and put it out on Twitter. And this is in reference to the fact that she went viral because after the dagger dunk from Cooper Flagg, the camera panned over to her and she was doing the on your head thing, but also saying on your fucking head, on your fucking head. Okay, cool. Like, I don't know about you, but I have found myself pounding on the glass at a 13-year-old hockey game. I mean, not dropping F-bombs at a hockey game, but I could see why parents getting worked up, and we're also talking about college sports. So the F-bombs are flowing a little bit. So she posts on Facebook. She's making some jokes about bail and all this other stuff. And it's just, I also want to apologize to anyone who was offended by my language that was caught in a celebratory moment. I do realize that it wasn't my best look. However, if you actually know me and are a real friend of mine, you were not shocked. I mean, I don't think any parent watching their kid is shocked by this, by the way. It was a very intense situation where we were put into, and we were taken aback by the crudeness of the UNC fans as we made our way to the arena. They continued to harass us, with much worse being spewed in our direction, as well as our 18-year-old son and his teammates throughout the entirety of the game. The celebration was a moment of being so proud of our kid, and also a big fuck you to the entire Carolina fan base for being classless assholes. If you are a UNC fan and didn't like it, tough shit. Better luck next time. Go Duke. I absolutely love everything that Kelly Bowman Flagg wrote on Facebook. I love every single bit of that because spiciness in the rivalry. She has entered into the rivalry lore. Give it to me. Put it in my veins.
The only thing that wounds me here is, how is this woman with this mouth not playing for Danny Hurley?
That's a good point.
That's what wounds me right now.
That's a good point. However, they continued to harass us in a much worse way. Worse things being spewed in our direction. Crudeness. Kelly, I have seen you at Duke games across. Now you're behind the Duke bench, right? I get that. And I'm over on the Cameron Crazy side across from the Duke bench. Do you not hearing what the Cameron Crazies are yelling? it's not in unison anymore because now everything's just kind of broken out into some really reprehensible things that are being said to players. Now, I'm not clutching pearls. To be clear, I'm not clutching pearls over this. But I do always find it amusing that when somebody on the other side's like, I can't believe how crude you were, especially coming from the Duke side, going, how my stars, how dare you say these terrible things to a player? I get it. You're the parent. You don't want to hear it. But y'all, some of the shit I've heard this season and last season, it's a little more, it's back to being a little more aggressive at Duke games without Mike Krzyzewski there. Because remember, things got a little bit more cordial with Mike Krzyzewski, and he wanted to professionalize and let's not do these crazy things that put you on the map. But since then, man, they're saying some wild shit at Cameron Indoor Stadium, okay? So, dial it back on the whole. I can't believe the things that I heard. I guess that it's loud enough at Cameron that you're not picking up on the things that are being said across the way from you. But anyway, Kelly Flagg, welcome to the rivalry. Now, every time we talk about the ACC, it is brought to you by our friends, the Donnelly team, Brian and Julie, Keller Williams Commercial. Check them out online at trianglencommercial.com, or you can just call them at 919-616-8681. We're talking about commercial real estate, warehouse needs. You've got a restaurant you're trying to open up and you need the space for it. You got you're just two people with a crazy idea that involves beer and you need space. They can help you with this. So contact our friends, Keller Williams Commercial, the Donnelly team, 919-616-8681 or trianglencommercial.com. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, Washington Post bracketology expert, he is Patrick Stevens. Patrick, what's up, man?
Hey, fellas, how are you?
Good. We've cleared the board. We got the NC State coaching search update out of the way, some ACC award snubs, Cooper Flagg's mom, all that fun stuff. We even got a call from two Roosters. Fantastic. But the one thing that really is pressing going into the ACC tournament is, North Carolina. They could have had what Giglio likes to call the magic bullet game. If they beat Duke on Saturday, we're not having this conversation. They're likely in without any sort of quote-unquote work to do at the ACC tournament. But that did not happen. And now they have that work to do at the ACC tournament. What exactly are we looking at for the Tar Heels in order to make the NCAA tournament?
Well, first of all, some of it depends on what happens elsewhere. How many bid thieves are there, bid snatchers from leagues like maybe the American if Memphis doesn't win, potentially the A-10 if VCU doesn't win. Not sure if VCU gets in as an at-large, but certainly a possibility. The Big West if UC San Diego doesn't win. And then on the off chance that you have a surprise winner in any number of other leagues. But first of all, Carolina absolutely has to check the box of winning its first game. And it almost certainly has to check the box of beating Wake Forest. And then you're probably staring at another one of those Duke games, right? So, the thing with Carolina at the end of the day, you look at their profile, there's nothing bad on it besides the quad 3 loss to Stanford, which isn't really that terrible. But the striking thing is the 1-11 record in quad 1 games and only one victory over the projected tournament field right now. That's against UCLA. They might pick up a second, though, because American is the top remaining seed in the Patriot League tournament. But that's not really what's going to carry North Carolina into the field, a team that's going to get sent to Dayton. So, when you compare Carolina to sort of their doppelganger at the edge of the field, which is Xavier, another team that has only one quad 1 win. That's a team that's won at Marquette for its quad 1, but it's also beaten Creighton and UConn at home. And so that, I think, is a differentiating factor. And Xavier also doesn't have a quad 3 loss. So I think you would lean towards Xavier at that point unless Carolina does something significant in Charlotte here this week.
Patrick, did you say Dayton? Carolina, destination Dayton?
Quite possibly. I mean, I don't see, in all likelihood, are they going to jump from right at the edge of the field into safely inside the field? Joe, are you just assuming they're going to get sent elsewhere?
No, not at all. I'm trying to cook up a scenario where Carolina gets in without beating Duke. And
I don't know if it exists.
Here's one for you. Your favorite, since you love my scenarios. Are you ready?
Sure.
Xavier, as you mentioned, smoking hot right now. Sean Miller has that team playing really well.
They do, but I want to point out that their schedule was really front loaded in the Big East, and so they didn't have as much to have. Now they played on a tightrope like North Carolina did down the stretch, and they get a lot of credit for winning all those games. But I think there was only the Creighton game down the stretch that they but go ahead.
And that's the interesting part, because you and I on the tenets of bracket principles. If you're on the bubble, do not fucking lose your first game in your conference tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And Xavier's draw, if I'm looking at this correctly, is Marquette. So in my brain, there's a real scenario. Xavier goes to the Garden, goes 0-1. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you call it 0-2 in barbecue. I don't know what the saying is in the Garden. They lose their first game. Carolina goes to Charlotte, beats Pitt, who's not terrible, beats Wake, who's not terrible.
Yeah. Those are quad 2 wins.
Now, all of a sudden, I think that gives the edge to Carolina. As you mentioned, Carolina's got to win over UCLA. Xavier has a couple other things that are in their favor. But I'm going to get into politics and say to you, Carolina was left out in 23, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's asking a lot to think that Carolina, in this scenario of doing nothing dumb, and now, as you mentioned, there can't be any other bid thieves. But I could see them going 2-1. It does really kind of hinge, though, on Xavier, maybe even some others going 0-1.
Yeah,
in their conference tournaments.
They could really use, for example, Ohio State getting
the other team, because they have
you look at them. In their back we have not seen many teams that are only 2 over 500 overall get into the NCAA tournament. There's been a few. I think there was that Georgia team that was 16-14 under Jim Herrick. That's one that comes to mind. There was a Villanova team under Massimino way back in the day that did it at 16-14. So that's one of those things that you look at. And it's like Ohio State is really playing with fire, and they get Iowa in their first game, and then would play Illinois in their second out in Indianapolis. So that's a team. Texas and Oklahoma both, I think, are teams that really would be well served. I think Oklahoma's in better shape. And Texas needs to do some work, but a loss by either of those teams makes things dicey. There's never been a team 6 under 500 in their conference that gets an at-large berth. And both of those teams went 6-12 in the SEC. So those are two teams that are kind of in that dicey area as well.
How many teams are we looking at right now for the ACC?
3 at this stage. I think it's Duke, Clemson, and Louisville. Duke, I think, locked in on the 1 line. And anybody that's saying, well, what if such and such happens? I mean, one of the key things to remember about this week is that almost everybody loses. And if we agree, and I think we do, that the number 1 seeds are going to come down to some combination of like 4 SEC teams, Duke and Houston. Well, 3 of those SEC teams are going to lose this week. So
hold up. You're telling me that Wake Forest, with a double bye, spot for the ACC tournament, is it a matter of they just got to make sure they win that game, or what are we looking at with Wake Forest?
They got to win the whole thing.
I think they got it. I think they have to make it. They're probably going to have to make it at least to the final. The two quad 3 losses. This year there just aren't a ton of those quad 3 losses floating around. And so they stand out more. Like most years, if you have one of those, it's like big deal. Everybody has a bad day. And by the way, there's a decent chance that they're looking at 3 quad 3 losses by the end of the week. If NC State gets pushed out of the top 135 just by other teams playing better. NC State at 134 right now. So Wake has a lot of work to do. And it'd be kind of funny, right? Like if NC State
done. What are you talking about? How can they still? Oh, wait, they can still hurt Wake. Amazing. I don't know, man. If I'm Steve Forbes and I finished 4th in this league and I don't make the NCAA tournament, why am I here?
But the thing is, like, they've beaten Michigan on a neutral court. And SMU on the road. That's what they got.
Yeah.
Like it's not. They are 8-8 against the top 2 quads. They're 6-6 on the road. Okay. So there are some good things there, but they need to do something.
I was going to say, if they beat Carolina and they beat Duke, even if they lost in the championship game, no, let's just hear me out. you can get on a line because again, remember it's who are you compared to? If you're
Right.
Wake Forest, you want to be with Indiana and Ohio State because they don't have wins over Michigan.
Yeah.
You do.
Okay.
I mean, as we're talking, who knows what they're going to do in there.
Now, the interesting thing that I think we've seen from the committee in recent years is that there has not been a ton of movement for teams during conference tournaments. That has tended to not be the case. So the question is, how are they evaluating Wake Forest? Are they evaluating Wake Forest in a more friendly way than I am, for example? Because I think you can. Like, if you want to put Wake up against, say, Colorado State and Boise State, it's not outlandish to say that they belong there. I have them like 8 or 9 spots out, but maybe the reality is they're 3 spots out. Yeah. And if that's the case, then if they go and beat Carolina and Duke, that might be enough, pending what happens elsewhere, of course.
Patrick Stevens, Washington Post. We can check in with you during the ACC tournament, good sir?
Hoping to, yes.
Do you have a Charlotte-themed bobblehead or a Marks bobblehead? What do we have today in the bobblehead?
I thought I would go with kind of a throwback here.
Okay.
The Philadelphia Phillies are a team that had something that they called the Saturday Night Special. The only team ever to name a uniform after a gun. And so here's Greg Luzinski in bobblehead form in the all maroons from the 70s.
Wait a second. That's downright svelte for Greg Luzinski.
I know this was.
Put that back up.
I mean,
I need that guy to make my bobblehead.
Well, do you need to show? Patrick the Sydney?
Look at these recent gifts that we got.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah, Sydney
wow.
Love, baby.
The amazing Technicolor Dream Coat.
Also, the fascinating the hair and the lips on Phillip Rivers being the same color.
Say, which one do you want next?
Let's show them the Phillip Rivers because the Phillip Rivers bobblehead is atrocious.
Wow.
Atrocious.
That is
And now. No, he's not taking a leak.
Oh. What? He looks like he's a bit of a zombie there.
Chuck the chest, baby.
Wow.
It's like triple the size of the.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving. Patrick Stevens.
I might need to give you that Chuck Amato the next time I see you, actually.
Washington Post. All right, man. We'll talk to you later.
Take care, guys.
Housekeeping.
It's brought to you by Enovana. Check them out online, enovana.com. Green Cleaning Solutions. They came to the house last week.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
We have a lot of new people that are checking out the podcast because anytime something big happens in NC State, we get an influx of people going, oh, here's where you guys ended up. Yes, we're here. Coming up on 2 years, 2-year birthday of doing this thing. If you're new to it, you like it, by all means, leave a review on your favorite podcast app. 5 stars only, positive vibes only. And of course, comment sections on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Everything helps with the algorithm. So if you want to give us 5 stars, if you want to leave a review, we would greatly appreciate that. The Year of the Hangover continues. You can click on the link in the podcast summary or the YouTube summary. It'll take you to Base 6, our friends here downtown. We've got these shirts for sale throughout the whole month of March to kind of remind, hey man, last year was wild. The hangover's real. So you can go get the drunk OG. And then of course we're headed to the ACC tournament. The broadcast schedule is going to be a little different going forward. No podcast in the morning. We'll do our first podcast from ACC tournament following the Carolina game tomorrow afternoon.
Yes.
So that'll be the way
we'll be on in the afternoon.
Weird.
It's almost like, yeah.
It's like riding a bike, Joe.
We'll see if I can do it. See how much coffee I can find.
So you're going to be so sleepy.
We'll see how much coffee I can find.
You know what you could do? You can go to Breeze Through right now and stock up on Celsius and Zins. Because,
don't do it to me.
You buy two Zinnies, save money.
Do it to me.
Save money on them Zinnies and some Celsius.
An angel just lost their wings.
The millennial twofer, Zins and Celsius. Also, cheap Pepsi, cheap Aquafina. They got all sorts of deals running right now at Breeze Through. More importantly, they got coffee. And I'll probably be hitting that on my way to Charlotte today. So go to breezethrough.com. Are you going to survive? Are you okay? You're struggling this week.
I am.
Is it allergies?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it tends to do it. That tends to do it. Giglio's rocking.
What is that glorious shirt that you're wearing, by the way?
Well, this one?
Yeah.
Oh, I've had this one for a hot minute.
The white one?
Oh yeah, I've had the white one for a hot minute. It's like, I think it was an ACC shirt that was clearly given out to staff because it has every sport on the back. It's like all the championships.
Oh, that's nice.
So this thing it used to be huge on me, but I've gained weight, and that's where we are. Which is why I need to get to the gym. And if I do go to the gym, it's all about using the row back. I got the gym shorts. I got the very comfortable shirts. You're rocking the hoodie right now. And they've just dropped their college collection. And you can use that promo code OG20. We had a listener send us a screen grab.
Chung Yeezy.
Is that Chung? Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember where it came from. The Yeezy bought all that with the OG20? Savings, baby. Savings.
Q-Zip is really nice. Then there's the hoodie. Then there's the shirt. And they have, you'll see tomorrow, I'll wear the AV cart out on sale soon.
Very exciting. And of course, our friends at Whitaker and Hamer. Speaking of our birthdays, we'll be at Shady's in May to celebrate our second birthday.
May 3rd.
And Whitaker and Hamer is a part of that. They've been with us from the jump. So contact them, wh.lawyer. Again, that's wh.lawyer. Same with our guy Hayes. Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority, bugsbite.com. We are officially in spring mode. Everything's blooming, which means the bugs are going to be out. And it also means the mosquitoes are not too far away. So start thinking about your mosquito treatments right now. So go to bugsbite.com. And it goes beyond just the sprays. They can do things like a misting system to help you out and keep all the nasty critters away while you're hanging out in your patio. So again, that's bugsbite.com. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group Hotline, WFNZ in Charlotte, he is Walker Mehl, Locked On Hornets podcast as well. Walker, what's going on, man?
Oh man, busy. Hornets, we're grinding to the end of the season. Panthers free agency is wild, so it's been a wild time.
It's been an interesting 2025 for the professional teams in the state of North Carolina. I feel now that the Panthers can join the club of, hey, we really wanted this thing to happen, and then something happened at the last minute where it didn't. The Hornets had this experience with Mark Williams. He's still on the team, right?
Yeah, he is. He's still on the team. Yeah, had a good game last night, too.
Mikko Rantanen's no longer with the Carolina Hurricanes. A whole 13 games with that dude, and now he is. There is enough salt from Carolina Hurricanes fans right now to brine all of Wade Avenue leading up to Lenovo Center and all of 440. It might brine all the way the drive to Charlotte for all I know.
Oh, we got some left over here for Rob Pelinka with what happened with Mark Williams and that trade rescission. Like, for sure, we got enough down here.
And then meanwhile, the Panthers, big free agency splash. Here we go. And then they got outbid by the Patriots. So I'm sure that was a point of contention yesterday on WFNZ.
It was happening while we were on air because legal tampering starts at 12 o'clock.
Right.
Coincides with the start of the Wes and Walker show. So we were happy, man. We had our Panthers update sounder. We had our just good old regular NFL sounder. And when we hit the Panther sounder, and it was for Milton Williams possibly coming to the Carolina Panthers, everybody got real excited. And it's not like it's a home run signing, but if you're talking about the most upside of this defensive guys, Milton Williams was the crown jewel. Mm-hmm. And we had him in our grasp for about an hour. I don't even know if we had him for an hour. Diana Rossini reports that Milton Williams is close to getting a deal done with Carolina. So
didn't Schefter straight up say it was happening?
I don't know about Schefter. When we're on the show, I'm collecting tweets, or so I was trying to collect tweets on the day that Twitter goes down, one of the more important Twitter days for me. So now I'm going to Blue Sky. I'm going to Instagram. Yeah. ESPN, thank you. ESPN did a nice job with their live free agency tracker. But I see that Milton Williams is expected to sign with Carolina. And then I see, oh, wait, no, there are 4 other teams in on a bidding war. So add him, Joe, to the long list of almost Carolina athletes. I don't know if another state can compete with us. Like, I know we always have it the worst, but man, I think
buddy, you are hitting a radio receptor for me that if I was still doing terrestrial, I would absolutely kill 3 hours of radio by opening up the phone lines and saying, who's the North Carolina pro athlete that could have been? Heck, let's even get into the college ranks. Like, who from this state should have gone to a school but ended up going to, I don't know, Clemson or something like that. And of course, in Charlotte, the easiest answer is Kobe Bryant. Could have been a Hornet.
That's the one.
Not really, but not the point. Not the point.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, all of it true. Not really, but for the sake of this game, you immediately want to go to Kobe Bryant. There's some real sicko Panthers. Like, we can go to Bashad Breeland, who suffered this weird laceration and then wasn't a member of the team. Yeah. We can get real sick and just go like some nickel corners, Brandon Boykin. We can go recent. We can go Dalton Connect.
Wes, if you're going, or Walker, I called you your co-host.
It's okay.
If we're going nickel corner could have beens for the Panthers, you do need to go outside and touch grass.
Badly, honestly, it's so true. The one guy for college basketball out there, I was thinking, who was the Oklahoma State guard that went to Oklahoma State and didn't end up playing for Carolina? There's somebody listening to this that knows right now.
Yeah, they're screaming at their AirPods or their phone right now. I'll
look it up, but that was one.
Of course, the other one I'm thinking too, in terms of like the great what could have been, to tie it back to the Carolina Hurricanes. There was a time in which Sergei Fedorov could have been a Carolina Hurricane, an offer sheet battle between the old owner and the Detroit Red Wings, because they had pizza beef back in the day.
I know Sergei Fedorov. That's actually a name I've heard of.
That's a longer story for another day. All right, back to the Carolina Panthers. Let's get away from the stupid radio bit, because we're not trying to take phone calls and take a day off of work for 3 hours.
Hit us on the text line.
Right, your Mount Rushmore of what could have been. If that doesn't scream July 8th radio, I don't know what does. But the Panthers in free agency so far, it's very clear what they're trying to do. They're trying to remake that defense. After using defensive pieces, and specifically Brian Burns, homegrown talent that could have been, and trying to remake and reshape the draft picks and replenish yourself after some of these decisions, it looks like Dan Morgan and the crew are trying to just remake this thing. It starts with J.C. Horn, which I have thoughts on, but obviously the big the splashes, if you will, are on the defensive side of things to try to remake this team on the defensive side, which was clearly their problem last year.
Dan Morgan told us a couple of weeks ago at the Combine, or I guess last week at the Combine, he said, we're going to try to improve our roster and attack the defense the same way we did the offense. And I think we were trying to figure out if it was just, we're going to improve the defense the same way we improve the offense via getting better players through any avenue necessary. And we were trying to figure out that, or whether you specifically meant free agency, because that's how the offense got better last year. Yeah. Is when you paid a whole lot of money to Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis coming in and helping protect that interior. That's how you did it. And now we know you meant by signing a bunch of defensive dudes, going through free agency and improving this defense. So you attack the defensive line. You get Tank Wharton out of Kansas City, who's got upside, whatever. You got an edge rusher out of Minnesota. The big one, the first one that they actually got the deal done on, was the safety out of Las Vegas, who's fun, has potential, run stopper. So like, you went out and you got a lot of pieces where winning on the margins seems a lot smaller than what they did, but it obviously wasn't the big splash signings. They made some really nice signings where you are shelling out good bits of money, but nothing is breaking the bank, so to speak. And I do think they made a lot of improvements yesterday. So hopefully it improves the defense, just like you improved the offense last year, which is what Dan Morgan was talking about.
I get free agency tends to be a little bit of a FOMO situation for fans, and to a certain extent us in the media. But let's take a look around with what exactly is the big splash in free agency so far. We're talking about Sam Darnold. We're talking about Justin Fields.
More so the trades, man. Like, it's DK, it's Geno Smith. Those are the splash trades, but free agency, it's been tough.
Free agency has been tough. And to your point about the trades, even the trades are like, Geno. I mean, I like Geno Smith, but I don't know exactly what we're trying to do here, right? So I look at this and routinely view it from the perspective of, you can really get lost in quote unquote winning free agency. I'm old enough to remember when the Philadelphia Eagles had put together, the greatest team ever through free agency, and they ended up being nothing, right?
Yeah, Vince Young told you it was the dream team. That's what happened.
That's what happened, right? So I think with the Panthers, if you're looking at where you've been, to me, it's not finding the fixes immediately through free agency. This is a little bit of a longer term thing. And I do think that the way that Bryce Young played at the end of the year, the front office doubling down on the relationship with Andy Dalton and Bryce Young at the quarterback position, gives you optimism that rather than a Matt Rule, we're 7 years away from being an overnight sensation stuff is out the window. And there actually looks to be some sort of competent plan, competent build taking place here that we're only going to find out more of when we get to the draft.
That's what it feels like, right? And it has we've been without that for so long. But it feels like there's a really smart and solid plan in place. And you are also right to bring up Bryce Young. I was just talking about this the other day. Man, how nice is it that we can go into this offseason not having to have the crazy quarterback conversation? Now, again, content separate from being a fan. Content, it's great. Quarterback, who's it going to be? But in reality, we also just want to have a good football team here in Charlotte. And if we're having the who's going to be the quarterback conversation, that means you're not going to have a good football team.
Well, so real quick, too, to your point, let's look at what we have this year. We're looking at a quarterback draft that isn't ideal. You have one that could potentially go in the first round. I think we all understand it's the guy out of Miami, the Shedeur Sanders stuff. He looks like a late first rounder at this point. Do you really want to, and if we're talking about small quarterbacks, well, then why would you want to swap out Bryce Young for Shedeur Sanders at this point? And then I get back to my point about free agency. What are we really talking about quarterback wise? Sam Darnold, Geno Smith. So I think the Panthers are actually in a really advantageous spot to get better at other spots rather than obsessing over QB.
Joe, when things went so poorly after the first two games, we were having conversations in week 4 about Andy Dalton possibly being the best starting option for the Panthers in 2025 because of everything you just said. There's not a quarterback. This class is not all that impressive. The free agents are not going to be all that impressive. This was fair to be before Sam was really cooking up with Minnesota, but even so,
look at hold on.
Even so,
look at Minnesota. It's the same thing because I know this probably happened with you guys in Charlotte. You're watching Baker Mayfield. You're watching Sam Darnold. Go look at the teams they were on compared to the Panthers.
Right.
Okay. Right. And then when the money was on the table, Sam Darnold was Sam Darnold in the playoffs. Was he not?
Yeah, he was. No, he was. And this is why we go back to how nice is it that Bryce Young looked so much better inexplicably, coming back and playing as well as he did and consistently. It wasn't, he showed us flashes. And we would have taken flashes where we were through the first 2 weeks of Bryce Young's second season. We would have taken flashes just to see this thing through. But it wasn't flashes, man. He actually, much to my surprise, I was ready to trade him. I was ready to move on. This does not happen when you bench a guy this early. It doesn't work out until his third or fourth team. Bryce came back and played so much better. It is so nice as a fan, as somebody that wants this team to be good, where we don't have to worry about quarterback, where you might take Shedeur Sanders at 5 because you probably be a worse football team if Bryce wasn't playing well. You don't have to take a quarterback in the first round. And what Dan Morgan is doing to get back to the plan of it all, I think what he's doing, and I agree with it, is filling the holes with veterans, guys that you know what they are in the NFL to some degree, and you're paying them money, and you got enough cap space. You got plenty of cap space, especially with the way that it rolls into next year. Yeah. And so you're paying those guys. Now you can just draft good old best player available. You still have a lot of holes to fill in terms of what you have for the future. Edge rusher, defensive line, deep draft class there. Wide receiver, sure. Go fill the holes in free agency and then truly do the best player available thing in the NFL draft.
All right. So JC Horn, I feel like we've put this off long enough. We're 12 minutes into this conversation. And they gave JC Horn a record-breaking contract, ... for now. And I think that's the important context here. And one of the things that I've tried to stay consistent with when it comes to these contracts, if you feel that he is part of this franchise going forward, just give him the money now. Yes, I get it. Last year, he had his first actual full season, 15 games. Before that, I think he had essentially missed half of the games that he had played in the previous 3 years. I get all that stuff. And you're like, well, how could you give him all this money after he just played his first full season? That's a gamble. It's actually more of a gamble if you just don't give him the contract now, because he might be the highest paid at that position right now. Give it 6 months. Give it 3 months. Sure. Give it whatever time. It's going to be surpassed. Everybody's the new highest paid, it feels like, every couple of months. And JC Horn and the Panthers are no different in that. So just give them the money now, because it'll cost you more money in the long run.
It might happen in days. There was a report about Dan Morgan wanting to get this deal done before Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley agreed to their contracts. It might be a defensive back record for Man, we're almost at the 24-hour point, but it really, I'm not kidding, might not last longer than that. So
Yeah.
I thought this was a piece of good business. It's less guaranteed money than Surtain is getting. It's more money overall than what Surtain is getting, but that's totally fine. I am a fan of paying your talented players as early as possible. And if you overpay a little bit, okay, it's not the biggest deal in the world, especially with the way that you can get out of some of these contracts as you go on. But I'm also not interested in getting out of this contract. I think cornerbacks are gaining a lot more value as the years go on.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, how many times have we gone into an NFL draft where we've heard in just the last 5 years, don't go back any further than 2019, this is the wide receiver class that is the best I've ever seen. It's happened every year.
Yeah.
And there's been some truth to it. I'm not even laughing at the exaggeration of it all.
Wide receivers are the new running backs. It is now at this point where it's a commodity, not a luxury to have a great wide receiver.
So now what are you going to do to stop it, right? You need the pass rush for sure. You need interior pass rush. You also need a good corner that can give your defensive line a chance to get home. And JC is so good at the line of scrimmage and just good overall, man. He's got the athleticism. I'm cool with paying him the $25 million a year, especially with cornerback value going up. Carolina's not setting a precedent by any means, but I do think they're a little early in terms of, hey, we're not thinking about this, man. Dan Morgan told you every step of the way, he's one of them dogs. We're gonna go get him. He's our type of player, and they paid him as early as they did Derek Brown. They saw those two guys as cornerstones, and they paid him as early as possible.
Walker Mehl, WFNZ, and Locked On Hornets. So we'll close on the Hornets. Do I have a reason? I hate to do this to you because every time you come on to the podcast, and we appreciate the time, man. I love that you make time for us. But
yeah,
I almost feel like it's I'm not trying to insult you, but it's like, do I have a reason to give a shit right now? Or
look, I told you even the last time that you asked this question. No, there's not been a lot of reason, and we're aware of that. We're aware of that. Like, we know what it is. I think right now they're playing more competitively. But to answer your question, it's gone horribly wrong. Since we've talked last.
Why does this keep happening?
Since we've talked last, they set an NBA record for worst point differential in a 3-game losing streak. Joe, they lost by 130 points. The previous record was 117. They also set a record for worst 4-game losing streak of all time, losing by over 140. It's injuries. Whew. Injuries is a real thing.
Yeah.
I think, especially when you start to look at some of the guys that have been here for a while, LaMelo Ball being one of them, it's the injuries for him. But my biggest issue, the take that I've been rolling with for quite some time, it's these guys become a product of their environment, where LaMelo now is missing a ton of shots, but the Hornets haven't been to the playoffs since 2015, 2016, when they had that 7-game series against the Heat. And no, we don't get to count play-in games. Those don't count.
Don't count.
So when you're talking about a playoff series, we're about to celebrate, quote unquote, we're about to celebrate a 10-year anniversary of them being out of the playoffs. And, we assign meaning to that kind of stuff. When you have a word for it, when you got a decade and people can just simply roll with a decade, now that pressure starts to turn up. I don't care if you got a new regime or not. And with that, now we might start trading the LaMelo Balls of the world. We'll see. Miles Bridges is absolutely balling right now, like absolutely ridiculous. But he might get traded because it's on a team that has the second least amount of wins in the NBA, and the team below you lost 4 times. It's brutal, man. It's brutal again.
Just realized I have another radio topic for you. 15-16. It's the last time the Hornets made the playoffs, right?
That's right.
It's also the last time the Carolina Panthers were relevant.
It is the last time. This is
10 years from the Super Bowl, the 15-1 Super Bowl year, man. So it's like, there's your radio topic in Charlotte. Like, did you, the Charlotte sports fan, know you had it as good as you were going to get it for the next decade? Had you known, would you have done things differently?
We had this conversation with NC State, right? Having lost so badly this year. Clearly, you would sacrifice this year for last year, but how far are you willing to go is the question. So if you bring that to Carolina, are you willing to go the next decade without having any playoff success? And we had that conversation about NC State yesterday.
Well, I would, to answer your question related specifically to the Carolina Panthers, you absolutely take that 15-1 year every single time because I get it. Losing in the Super Bowl sucks. but I don't think people appreciated just how much fun that year was. Just Cam was at his peak. You had the dab. Everybody was mad at the Panthers, so it kind of circled the wagons for fans in the state and all that kind of stuff. You take that every single time, man, because that was an incredibly fun season.
I mean, how many teams have even only lost one game in a regular season? Like it's not. I mean, we're getting to a very special area, a very special record and what was also fun is it's not like they lost in week 5.
No.
And then they lost in week 15 was their first loss. And so totally with you, you take it. But I'd like to have one of those again. I'd like to get
10 years close. Is enough. You're due. 10 years is enough.
I feel like it. At least it feels like
it. Walker Mehl, WFNZ, Locked On Hornets podcast. All right, man. I'm headed your way in a little bit. I'm sure we'll catch up.
Hope to see you, man. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I don't know. I might continue my radio vibes by visiting our friends at WFNZ while we're in Charlotte. A little in studio. It's like riding a bike, like we said earlier.
You could do it.
It's like doing stuff in the afternoons, being in a studio, like an actual radio studio.
You can do it.
I think I can do it.
There might be a clock in there, though. You might be allergic to one of those.
It'll be my goal to completely ruin their clock.
My language has rubbed off on you too. So
a little bit. But I think I can. I think I can change the mindset. Just like you got to change the mindset when it comes to your interest rates. I get it. Rates aren't exactly ideal. We're not where we were 5 years ago, where rates were in the 3s and things like that. But here's the thing: they are down from where they were before, and more importantly, your situation might have changed. And that's where Miller Lending comes into play. No closing cost ever. No games, no gimmicks. Not trying to hide closing costs into the amount of your loan, thus making your payments not truly what you thought they were going to be. So you might find yourself in a situation where your credit card debt is up. Those interest rates are higher than what you can get for your house to be refinanced. There's any number of reasons why you want to do that. And that's where Miller Lending comes into play. So check them out online at millerlending.com/theog. Or give them a call directly at 919-447-3377. Your house is your biggest asset. You are sitting on a lot of equity, and that equity can help you out at a lower interest rate than what you might see with credit cards. So give them a call, see what your options are, see where you're at, see where it makes sense. And that's the other thing, too. They're local, 919 area code. They're local. They're based in Cary, and they understand the area, and they're going to help you out. So millerlending.com/theog. Tell them we sent you, and there's a Raleigh Wine Shop gift basket involved.
I mean, I might just do it for the gift basket.
Why not? NMLS 250-2146. Speaking of your home, you got to insure it. Are you getting the best rate, though, for your insurance? There's one man to call who can help you out. That would be Matt Davis. InsureGarner.com, theoginsurance.com, or call him directly at 919-779-8277. And, of course, Matt, another guy in the community doing it right. Not only is he going to help you save money on home and auto, but there's a chance for you to win some Canes tickets.
Yeah. Once you get that quote, either take a screen grab of it on your phone or email it over to me, giglio.joe@gmail.com. We have 2 tickets to give away for Tuesday, March 25th. It's a 7:00 game against the Nashville Predators. And then, Joe, one that I will be looking forward to and might just wind up being an OG tailgate if we're being honest right now.
Okay.
Sunday, April 13th, we got a 5:00 game against the Maple Leafs. So looking forward to that one. You can win 2 tickets to either one of those games by just showing me a quote from Matt Davis. If you go with Matt Davis, you sign with State Farm and Matt Davis, I will pay for your parking. Or actually, royally, we will pay for your parking. So get that in. Send it over to me, giglio.joe@gmail.com. Win those tickets.
Call it a 2 Joes, 1 Cup lightning round mashup.
Okay.
Right. There's not a lot, in terms of the lightning round and things like that. There's not a lot. When I say this, I know why you're laughing. And I say this.
Where's my David Letterman pen?
Put it in the baby book. Put it in the baby book.
March 11th.
So, I think we're 5.
Finally admits it. Here we go.
Yeah, finally admit it. There's not that much to get into in terms of what I would want to talk about in the lightning round. Like, we talked about this a little bit with Walker and the NFL free agency. I think my issue is, like, how much energy can I really muster about Sam Darnold
getting the bag?
How much can I really muster about, like, the people are like, I can't believe Justin Fields got that contract. That's the going rate for
a great contract.
It's a great contract. Like, pay attention to where we are with football. And
I'm actually happy for the Jets.
Yeah, actually seem to have made a decent
They'll
move.
screw it up. I know they will. That's what the Jets do.
It is the Jets. So I don't know how much I can muster about, like, these quarterbacks right now in this free agency. Like, I just feel like you're kind of going through the motions, and I'm supposed to get that worked up about, would you rather have JJ McCarthy or Sam Darnold? Ooh, not so sure that's really going to be moving the needle. And what? Do I want to talk about LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith having a beef over the weekend? You saw that,
he
right?
went up, said something about Bronny, like Will Smith style.
I always thought it was funny, like, Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith was essentially saying, I didn't like how LeBron chose that moment to make it a deal. I'm like, dude, you turn everything into content. How can you be mad that he came up to you to do that? Come on. Now.
Yeah, I mean, also, like, LeBron, everyone knows what you're doing. Yeah. And that's fine.
That's fine.
Like, what's his name? The owner of the Cowboys isn't like, hey, guys, can you stop picking on my no good fail son who doesn't know how to draft a team or sign a quarterback to a long-term contract?
I mean,
hey,
LeBron
keep his name out of your mouth. It's like,
we all know why Bronny's in that situation.
Right. You're the CEO and you've got your son a job. So you're using your privileges. That's fine. Like, that, don't act like it's something else, though.
I'm kind of in this mode with the lightning round. I'm like, you know what? Let's just devote this whole entire thing to the Canes. So the lightning round is always brought to you by Sam Jones. Check them out in downtown Raleigh.
I had a nice
and in Greenville.
text from Sam Jones today.
They did.
They do a really good job of, hey, here's a coupon for a free banana pudding with a purchase of $15 or more, which is basically lunch.
Yeah.
So you get free banana pudding. And all this was I went, you do the scan.
Yep.
When you go to the store, you order your food. Your number's in there. Hey, man, you want a coupon for 10% off? Here's great deals. That's what I'm getting at. Like, every day they take care of their customers.
So let's check that out. Do it. Go to Sam Jones.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports Phone and curse or don't.
Take care of our customers, and our friends at Happy and Hail take care of our customers.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, when I bought Bill O'Donnell in here for being the first Black Card executive member, you looked at me like, oh, man, I just didn't have, this wasn't on my itinerary today. Grumpy radio guy. We got a lot to get into. We don't have time for taking care of the people who take care of us.
I never said that.
You were grumpy.
No, I was grumpy because I had known ahead of time. I could have done a proper setup.
Sure. What good is that?
It had nothing to do with taking care of Bill.
What good is that? Take care of our people.
From Bennett. Hey, Joe, can we talk about if Rod had any indication that Mikko wasn't staying when you talked to him before Whalers night? He said he had a meeting with him, but do you think he knew, quote unquote, immediately, or it was a no? Or was it only about a week before the deadline? This is followed up by a couple of texts to the sports phone. For instance, from 919. #Hey Joe, I'd like some more information on who knew what before the Rantanen trade. Did Colorado know he had a 4-team limit? If so, that seems like a jerk move. If not, did Rance and his agent hide it? Because he sure had to know. Did Tulski get warned and he still went for it? That looks bad for him. Seems the bad communication was off the charts. And of course, an 803 chimes in with, has Mikko surpassed Bracelet Boy, Eric Hall, as the most despised former Cane? I think the answer to that is absolutely, unequivocally, yes.
Well, the Canes keep beating Eric Holla in the playoffs, so
that helps too.
There's a little bit of I've seen some reaction online. Obviously, locally here, we know how Hurricanes fans feel.
Yeah,
and the Spittin' Chicklets guy,
Bissonnette
was on, and he was basically saying, like, this wasn't a good idea to give away Natchez for a move. Like, he's like, yes, I understand that you were aggressive, but this doesn't reflect well upon you that you gave away an asset like Natchez at a time where now you look at it and go, well, yeah, you could use that rather than 2 first-round picks right now, right, in order into pursuit of this year. And I see some people like getting mad at some of those national types who are like, this was not a great deal for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Fair.
I think you have to understand that as well. Like, while everyone was happy on Sunday, the way that everything worked out with the fourth line guy scoring and Stankoven scoring, you're like, oh, see, it'll be okay. It'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, ultimately, it was a move that the Hurricanes will have to live and learn from.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it was not a good move for the Hurricanes unless they somehow draft the next Connor McDavid with that first round pick. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's okay to have both things. Like, it's okay to be okay with the Hurricanes being aggressive and making a big move. It's also okay to be critical of the Hurricanes by saying the way that the way that you actually followed through with it made your team worse in the short term. I think both of those things can be true.
Well, I think it gets back to the communication and how Luke Takaka described it when we did the emergency podcast on Friday. Something along the lines went haywire when he got here.
Yes.
When exactly has not been figured out yet.
Yeah.
The reference that 2 of our listeners were making is in reference to head coach Rod Brind'Amour talking to Adam Gold in the pregame on Sunday.
Yeah.
And Rod told Adam straight up, I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have it in front of me, but straight up told Adam, yeah, when I had my conversation with Mikko, he said I would only play for 4 teams, and you're not one of them. That's essentially how the conversation went. It was pretty raw and candid Brind'Amour, a raw and candid Brind'Amour that you and I have experienced. And obviously in this situation, and I know how those interviews typically go, they're very hockey-y, if you will. And Adam's asking him about lines and who's getting minutes and blah, 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 blah. This was off-season Rod, if you will, in a pregame setting. So it was pretty eye-opening to catch that. So the fact that Rod felt comfortable in a pregame with Adam to be like, yeah, man, he told us straight up this, that's surprising. When he said that, I didn't really get good context. Like, Rod could have been a little caught up in the moment. He's like, yeah, when he got here. Well, what exactly does that mean? Like, the minute he got here? Was it the conversation he said he had the day before when we had talked to Brind'Amour last week? I don't know. I don't have context on that.
Yeah.
But the story continues to be the same. Mikko Rantanen got here, didn't want to be here, pouted the entire time until he got his way, and now he's with Dallas. So this gets back to the question about Tulsky, as one of our listeners pointed out. I'd love to go a little deeper with Tulsky outside of a press conference, and I'm sure we will at some point, about what exactly were you hearing when you made that deal. Now, depending on the NHL insider you follow, the intimation is that the agent never really thought that the Canes would be able to pull off this deal with the Colorado Avalanche. So it's a very kind of tossed off, oh yeah, he'll play there. Like, man, this ain't had Colorado's not going to do this. Like we talked about here. Come on. This core group, we got our contract coming up, blah, blah, blah. Nah, there's no way they'd trade him. So in a way, it almost feels like the agent was the one that didn't really buy it, therefore led to this game of telephone that led to we have a legitimate shot at signing Mikko Rantanen to a long-term deal.
There's also another side to this.
Yeah.
He essentially signed with Dallas the same number that he was offered by Colorado.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like, so if you're Colorado, you're sitting here going,
what are we doing?
What's the issue?
Well, I mean, again,
right?
But Colorado seems to be dealing with some other cap.
Oh,
particular things.
They definitely are. But they're the ones, if you go back and trace this whole thing, Colorado is the one who would have the moral high ground to say, we don't want to pay you 8 years from now.
Yeah.
We don't want you to be in a situation where 8 years from now, we're paying you that kind of money.
Mm-hmm.
The Hurricanes look a little bit like spoiled babies by being like, no, we didn't want to invest in you anyway. Like, it's fine. We've got these other 2 guys now. It's all fine. Like the spin from the Hurricanes, and I don't think they necessarily did this.
Yeah.
I liked what Tulsky said on Friday. We were aggressive. We don't mind. We don't regret being aggressive.
But where the pushback is it's where the spit and chiclet guys, I think, are misinformed. And they're like, how do you not know? You can't.
Right.
Like you legitimately can. And it only became a thing with Dallas because that was part of the trade parameters. I mean, what we said from the jump. The only way I can see this happening is if there's some sort of sign and trade, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happened. They agreed to a deal, boom, done. Trade happens. So to wrap the point on Natchez, it all kind of comes back to, and why I would push back with national guys who are not here all the time, talking to people who cover the team on a daily basis. Nate just had no future here. They tried to move him in the offseason. They didn't like what their opportunity. They didn't like
one more year, but
they did not like what they were getting. What they were getting in the summer.
Yeah,
Brenda Moore made it work, and then it was going to go from there. And we've talked about this with Luke ad nauseum, that the Canes did not see a future with Natchez. So you might as well see what you can get. And if it involved getting this guy who you believe is an upgrade and that you were going to give an 8-year contract to, that you felt that strongly about him, yeah, it kind of tells you what they thought about Natchez in the long run. And just because Natchez is playing well in Colorado, if you wanted to bring up Natchez in Colorado, I would bring it up in the context of maybe that's what the Canes are missing. Not a Natchez, but a McKinnon. You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, because how often have we been talking about the center position with the Hurricanes? Yeah. So that if you wanted to spin it that way, I'm here for it.
You know the difference in all this.
What's that?
The people who cover the team locally get the information in general. Yeah. Not everyone, but in general, get the information from the general manager, the coach, even Dundon, right?
Yeah.
The people who cover the team, cover hockey nationally, get information from agents, right? So agents are looking out at the behest of their players. The people who work for the team or own the team are obviously looking through it at the behest of the team. So there's your difference there.
That makes sense.
And again, I would just say I think both can be right. Like, it's okay that Bissonnette looks at the Hurricanes and is critical of the move that they made.
Oh yeah, I'm not.
And it's okay that if you're a Canes fan and say, you know what, fine, we took a swing. At least we took a swing. Yeah. Like, I don't have a problem with that attitude. To piggyback off what you're saying, as a Canes fan, you know what Natchez was and what his future was.
Yeah.
So you understand that. Yeah, well, ultimately getting 2 number ones and Stankoven, maybe who can become someone in your top 6.
Could be.
Then that is good at value, actually. Better than whatever Buffalo was offering this offseason of a trade you never made because you didn't want to.
One other last point about this as we take our hockey break.
Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hill.
If the Rantanen situation was that quickly bad,
sour,
okay, then the Canes probably would have done, because Tulsky talked about this on Friday at the trade deadline. They clearly didn't have that much clarity on Rantanen because they were also trying to make some other moves. They would have taken, it's the picks, right? Who's to say they don't take those picks with more time to flip something else? Because that's the other thing too, that Tulsky straight up said, we had some other moves in mind, but because of how late this happened, we couldn't. So I think that's an important piece of context that goes beyond the very base level of these stupid Canes. How did you not know all this other kind of stuff? There's a lot of moving pieces, right down to how you even get Rantanen, because the minute you start to float around, hey, contract, would you come here? Well, that blows the doors off on a deal altogether that clearly surprised everybody.
I'd also say this, as at the risk of being a broken record.
Yeah.
Even not having Natchez, and now you add in not having Rantanen or Gensel, you're going into free agency next year with a much bigger budget than anything that you've had before. These are not tight times for the Carolina Hurricanes. And as they've said, if they're going to be aggressive in trades that may not work, well, guess what? They're going to be in free agency this year with all the more cap room that they have.
Every time we talk about the Canes and we take our hockey breaks, it's all brought to you by Happy and Hail. Check them out. Download the app. Use our promo code OG25 to save on your first order when you download that app. And of course, Joe, we do have For Life.
All right. Is it time to start pushing to 10,000 subscribers?
We are. With the Canes, with NC State, we're bumping up against 9.
Okay.
I'd like to get to the even round. Like, I've always had it in my mind, if we just get to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube,
I got a better idea.
I'll stop caring.
I got a better idea.
Yeah.
Once we get to the 9,999th subscriber.
All the nights.
No reason. The 9,999th YouTube subscriber.
Yeah.
Will get this Happy and Hail black member card.
The way it works is
the executive card.
You got a screen grab that you were 999.
Yes.
That's what you have to do. So I like, it's a much better idea, Jay. In the meantime, go to Happy and Hail. Heck, man, I might be hitting Happy and Hail on my way home before I head off to Charlotte. And you should do the same. So check out Happy and Hail. We thank them for our hockey breaks.
That music be the grand entry music, or should it have a little more of a
Do you want more urgency?
wiggle to it?
Good point. Good point. We've been talking about hockey. When the playoffs do hit, you'll be tailgating. What do you need? You need the Butcher's Market. Fire up the grill, get all the goodies, buy 1,000 hot dogs to get you all the way through June. What?
I still
You still have hot dogs? Yeah, maybe you'll have. Maybe it'll show up for the OG tailgate.
James is the one who eats a lot of hot dogs, and obviously he's in spring break now. But when he's not home, man.
Hey, man. All I know is that this is actually the most corporate synergy thing we'll have ever done. So you just ate all those hot dogs. You know what you need to do? You got to go to O2 Fitness after eating all those hot dogs. Sweat them out. O2fitnessclubs.com.
O2 Fitness, so much more than a gym.
You can go work at all their locations, great staff, great equipment. You can then go to Renew Physiotherapy if, like, say, you got some knee pain that's flaring up, or you're in Giglio's case and your neck is shot. And then there's also Loop Nutrition. O2 Fitness has, again, all sorts of ways to help you through your journey of getting to a healthier state of being. And I know what they're going to tell you at Loop Nutrition. So you ate how many hot dogs at that tailgate? Not on the plan. Not on the plan. But they can put you on a plan. And same thing goes with Thrive. They've partnered with O2 Fitness, livethrive.co. They're going to be like, hey, man, look, we can give you all the oral testosterone treatments, but something tells me the nitrates and the hot dogs are going to cancel it out. Just a thought. Don't do that. So livethrive.co is the website with weight loss treatments, testosterone treatments, and it's all online.
Yep.
And it's a much better experience than them's. Now, I say you ate all those hot dogs. That also leads us to 1-800-Plumber. You ate all those hot dogs, one too many beers, runs right through you. Oh, no. Things got clogged. And it's a clogging that you cannot handle.
And it's never during the week. It's never during business hours.
No.
The beauty of 1-800-Plumber and Air.
So check them out, 1-800-Plumber.com. 1-800-Plumber, just a phone call. They usually do our hot and cold, and I'm sitting here to tell you that our hot, it's our ad reads. It's our corporate synergy. Our corporate synergy is really, really hot right now. So go check them out. 24/7 service, both for the HVAC systems and for plumbing, and upfront pricing, which is key when it comes to these matters.
My hot is UNCW playing for the league championship tonight.
Nice.
Against your fighting Blue Hens and super sleeper NC State candidate Martin Inglesby.
All right, let's get through some Hey Joe questions and some OG Sports Phone. This is from a 919.
Hey, guys. I wanted to call and ask because I was talking to my buddy about the Keats firing, and he was giving me that typical NC State homer shit where it's just, we're going to go out and we're going to find this coach, and we're going to get this coach, and they're going to want to coach for us. And I just had to stop him because, you have to sell yourself to these coaches. And NC State has a history of being known for kind of penny pinching. We have to play UNC and Duke every year in basketball multiple times. Wake Forest is doing good. The fan base has obviously shown that their expectations are completely out of whack with what we can actually achieve right now. So I don't understand how we're going to sell that to coaches and why they would want to just come coach for us. I guess my question to you guys is, what are the selling points of an NC State head coaching job in basketball? Because right now they don't look great.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Fair.
For sure. But the old calculus, you mentioned Duke and Carolina. Obviously, Roy and Kay aren't there anymore.
They're not there.
That's not to say Duke's not, done really well, but that changes the math a little bit for you. Now, quite frankly, the ACC right now needs to figure out. And I think, if we do catch up with Jim Phillips in Charlotte, I will be interested to see. I was told by a source, multiple coaches actually, that after the winter meetings down in Florida, Phillips made a directive to these schools that the house settlement money needs to be used to boost men's basketball. It needs to be, because the way the SEC is succeeding right now is with all of their financial advantages. And that's where the ACC is really falling short, other than look at where Clemson, Louisville, Duke, Carolina are, Wake Forest are NIL-wise.
Yeah.
Ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
But in terms of the sell for NC State, if we specifically look at, a coach at McNeese, or even a coach at, let's take a coach at McNeese. Obviously, you're sitting here going, obviously the ACC is a better situation than McNeese, right? And you're also talking about a guy potentially who has been there before and maybe is looking for more of a fit, if you will. And I do think Will Wade's personality does fit the case there. Or if you're a Mike White, you look at it and you go, I'm at Georgia. I could win the national championship. This is like a mini version of my Nate Oates.
Yeah, and nobody cares.
Right?
Nobody cares.
Right. And plus you'd go work for someone that you're aligned with.
Yes.
Roy Williams, remember,
twice
turned down Carolina because he was very comfortable with who he was working for at Kansas. Shouts to Brad Frederick, my guy at Carolina. His dad took a chance on Bob Frederick took a chance on Roy to make him a coach. And Roy always felt a loyalty there. It wasn't until he had a falling out with the AD and that he was done with, the players that he had recruited, that he had said, you know what, now I'm ready. And of course it helped that Dean Smith said, last time I wanted you, this time we need you.
Yeah.
So there is that. And I think that's kind of the situation. Every situation is different. That's why I would caution some people on this Ryan Odom stuff. Yes, it does make sense, but A, he's in a very good situation at VCU, and B, Virginia, Villanova, which could potentially come open. His resume suggests that you're right. You'd have a harder time selling somebody like that than somebody at McNeese or somebody in Georgia who has a personal connection to your program.
We're at 336.
Boys, I'm a little late catching up on the podcast, and there is no comp for NC State. NC State fans don't want a comp. There's only one thing that NC State fans really want, is beat Carolina's ass. That's all they want. And all you have to do is walk up to any one of them and ask them, do you want a 10-win football season, but one of the losses is to Carolina, or a 3-win football season and one of the wins is to Carolina, and they think about it, that tells you what they really want. That's why Dave Doran still has a job and Kevin Keats doesn't. Love the show. Talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with the sentiment.
There's some truth to that.
And I've said this before. We're probably looking at a different trajectory for NC State football if Dave Doran doesn't beat Carolina in the games that he did, straight up. And this year is included in that. Will that continue with Bill Belichick as a head coach? Yes, it will. If Dave Doran continues to beat Carolina with Bill Belichick as a head coach, it's going to be really difficult for Dave Doran to contain himself. If you thought the Red Solo Cup and Cigar was a bit much, we might see some FCC unfriendly things on the ACC network, but it's cable, so it doesn't matter.
I hadn't even thought about that, to be perfectly honest, but you're absolutely right.
I mean, dude, ACC network might have to be pay-per-view with what might happen, okay? So you're right. And we've been saying this consistently with Kevin Keats and really any NC State basketball coach. You got to take the opportunities you have to beat Carolina. It just so happened that they did in the ACC tournament last year, but it should have been followed up this year. That's where we're at. All right, let's close that on this one.
Hey, Giglio, since you break things regularly, well, you're still breaking news, even in the podcast era with Keats gone. I tuned into my handy-dandy YouTube DVR tonight to watch Why Not Both, the story of NC State's 2024 season, and it didn't record. And I thought to myself, what's the matter? Did you not set it up right? So I looked for any future airings on the guide, and there were none. And then I went to Google, and I found a link to a university article that NC State had put out 6 days ago about this thing. Only problem is when you click on the link, it gives you a 404 error message saying, hey, you tossed an air ball. This page no longer exists. So, did NC State pull it? Did ACC Network pull it? Did ESPN pull it? And why? Was it too much salt in the wound for Kevin? 36 hours after being, thrown the door? Just curious. I'd love your take, or I'd love you to break some news and tell us when we can expect this wonderful homage to last year's team. Thanks.
I think you're asking the wrong Joe in this particular case.
They sent out a message saying they had pulled it.
Yeah, not pulled, postponed.
Postponed.
Amanda Brooks, who's in PR for ESPN, longtime PR person at ESPN, tweeted this out. The debut of Why Not Both has been postponed until later this month. Updated programming details will be announced in the coming days. I did talk to my people over at the ACC Network, and it's really not that complicated. It ain't that deep. They thought it was in poor taste to air the doc, which will air that shortly after Kevin Keatts got fired. I asked, is there some kind of postscript that will be added to this documentary? And the answer to that is no. This is a historical document about what happened last year.
Yeah.
It doesn't need any sort of extra things. And that's how it was explained to me. I think there's this, what is this thing about? Again, it has to do with twofold, the men and the women. And we tend to forget about the women. I mean, society, it is what it is. Unfortunately, I hate it, but let's be honest about this. Last year, it was so much about NC State being back in this position for the first time in 37 years, winning an ACC tournament, and getting to the Final Four for the first time in 40 plus years. We forgot that this was also a breakthrough for Wes Moore at NC State, who just happened to play in his 5th ACC championship game in the last 6 years. So it is about both. It's not just about Keatts. So it's going to run. It's just going to run later in March, and it'll probably run around the time that whatever happens with NC State and their. You got to remember who runs the NCAA tournament. Who carries the games? Not CBS, ESPN. So they're going to tie the Why Not Us into the women's basketball postseason run.
Yeah.
So that's where it makes sense. So it'll run. It's just not that deep. They thought, hey, man, read the room. Guy just got fired. Probably don't want to run that today, but we'll run it eventually because you do have to still tell the story. So it'll run eventually. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. We're going to run things a little bit later tomorrow. We'll be live, theoretically live.
Yeah. No, we're live from.
Are we going live the whole time?
What are we doing Saturday?
We're not doing anything Saturday. I'll be in DC, dude.
Okay.
Now, what we could do if you want. Damn it, are we having a?
I'm just saying, if
having a meeting, you want to do something Sunday night?
Sunday, yeah.
Brackets?
Yeah, we got to do something Sunday.
You do something Sunday.
We'll come here.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. So, anyway, we'll see you in Charlotte after the Carolina game. Bye.